Hi, everybody. Welcome to this series of focusing conversations through which you will get to know the extraordinary members of our online forest training program. I'm so pleased to include you via these videos in our exciting and timely project of using Genlin's focusing to empower community life.
It's such a pleasure to meet with you, Ina. And we've been talking for a while about Ina's life, and it didn't get recorded. So we're going to just recap a little bit for everybody. Ina, I'm going to tell you some of the things that really struck me about what you said. You came from immigrant parents, and they had a plan for your life, the way your life was supposed to go, and it wasn't right for you. But you found this very creative way to have your own sense of direction that they would go along with, and that was to live in Israel. And so the first part of your adult life, you lived in Israel, in Jerusalem, did a lot of traveling, and was very embedded in community in Israel and in Jerusalem. And then you went and lived on a tiny island. I forget the name of it.
Formentera.
Formentera. It helped to form you. It's a good.
The land that formed me. It was the
Yes, yes, yes. And it was a place, very kind of primitive place, natural place, where uh, there was time and there was weather, and you loved that, the sense of the naturalness of the weather and the time.
It's hard to get used to coming from modern living.
Yes, yes, yes. Yours is a life of
It's quite
radical
a challenge.
transitions, it seems to me. So there was a huge transition there, going to Israel and then going to this little island. And then from that little island, you became very hungry for meaning and for spiritual food. And you were a hippie, a sort of hippie searching for meaning, and you ended up in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. Am I skipping a step? I think you went.
A bit of Uspensky and Gurdjieff and searching, but
The,
uh, but and that was a 2-year period of study.
of study and searching.
And then, yes, I through many different seeming coincidences, plus the search for good food, I ended up in Crown Heights.
And the good food is both metaphoric and literal, literally good food. And I remember you're saying that what drew you to Crown Heights and to the Hasidic community was vegan
With
eating
garlic.
with garlic. Yes, that is so interesting that the garlic would draw you to the Hasidic community in Crown Heights. And there you lived embedded again in community for 9 years, right? And 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 I had said that it was such a contrast, a leap from being a hippie to living in a Hasidic community. But for you, it didn't seem like such a leap. It seemed like there was a kind of inner continuity there of something.
Yes, very much so. Because we hippies, and I can't speak for all hippies, I think rightly assessed that the leaders of the world were psychotic. And we did not want to participate in anything that would further or aid and abet, even in a way that the person's not aware they're aiding and abetting this war of the worlds that seemed to be the accepted global narrative.
Yes, 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 yes.
And that's my position now as well.
Okay, so let's say that again, that your position now, as it was then when you went to Crown Heights, is that you don't want to aid and abet the psychosis of the way the world
Is
is
said to be and seen to be.
said to be and seem to be.
And I have to correct it. That's not how I got to Crown Heights, but it's really, I was stating my lifelong ethos as a hippie,
Yes, 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 yes.
as
Yeah.
a naked peace lover.
A naked peace lover, yes. And I love that you said, and still, and this is what I stand for now. And
I do not accept the major narratives that are put out that
Mhm.
have the world, meaning the human inhabitants of the world,
Mhm.
divided into nation states as we seem to be now. These are media fictions.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
not the reality.
Okay, so we're gonna mark that and go back for a moment to the narrative of how you got here. In Crown Heights, one of the things that was really important there was the family life where you had only one child and other people had many children, and you became a kind of consultant or helper to those families, and that made a huge impact and impression on you about the importance of babies.
What was striking only became clear later. I was in training without realizing I was in training, simply
Yeah,
because I was
yeah,
called upon as a neighbor to help. And it was natural to do that.
yes,
And no money passed hands. Uh,
yes,
and only later, when I had left the Orthodox community after my 9 years gestation there, and I became what I had said, and I think it's still well said and well placed here, that a couple things in the religious orthodoxy rubbed me the wrong way, did not sit well with me. One was the environment. It's a very different view of the environment.
mhm,
And the second is the concept of being uh, a superior or a chosen people. And I'm conflicted about that because I do feel chosen in so many ways. And I
yeah,
feel every people is chosen
yes, yes.
to be part of this orchestra.
Yes, we're all chosen to be part of this whole great big everything, and we're all uniquely chosen for the instruments that we play in this orchestra.
And I should add, and I didn't, and now this is a good time to add this, the position of women.
I was wondering about that, and that was a question that was on my mind. That going from being a hippie to being an Orthodox woman in community must that must have been a problem, and you're saying it was a problem.
Well, it's something that began to gnaw at me.
Mhm.
Those
Yes,
three things now we've added that. Um,
yes,
yeah. And awakened me to feminism and to Marxism and to political reading and to political activism.
yes, yes,
I,
yes.
through a college professor, I went back to finish my BA that I had abandoned when I
Mhm.
went to Israel and had started at Brandeis. I went back to college here in New York
Yeah.
City. And a professor of mine introduced me to her world of Marxist-inspired political activism. And
Yes.
I think that's a piece that we didn't go too much into, and I won't add too much more, but just to say that as far, these were people who were, and I am, left of left,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time wanted to accomplish something practical in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they still are, and I still somewhat support from a distance their work, to open up the political process and to open up the ballot and to allow and encourage independents to run and independent parties to gain ballot access, something that both major parties are dead set against.
Yes,
And
yes.
they're in complete collusion to prevent anyone from having a voice other than through these two established parties. So, and I told you that I was one of the top grassroots on the street fundraisers for
Yes,
these
yes,
efforts.
yes.
And that was another 9 years, by the way.
Another 9 years. So from the Hasidic community to the left of left community where you are on the streets working. And then there was this transition to less embeddedness in community, to what people think of as, I think you described it, ordinary life or something.
Life as an individual without
Life as an individual. Yeah.
obligations. And I said that that was scary.
Yes, that was the most scary thing, to have life as an individual.
And what happened then was that all those years helping people off of having given birth by choice, alone, with my partner on an island to my daughter, now half a century ago, and all that time helping people, I in the freedom of uncommitted private life, I found a way to earn a living, got training in these things that I already was practicing, but for free. I got training so that I could become a postpartum doula, a labor doula, and and quite a few years later, I took the boards and became an international board certified lactation consultant, which I now am.
Yes, yes, yes. And what you told me before was that something about, and you said this in a very sort of focusing way, something about infants and being with infants and helping there with infants, being the helper, the doula. Something about that was akin to the life on the island and akin to focusing.
Yes.
And we had said that it was something like about that sense of space and time and naturalness in those three things.
Yes. They open time.
Let's come back here.
Yes.
To this last period here where you really want to get out the message. You really want to publish what you've learned from newborns. And you want to get out the message. Let's see if I have this right now, and you'll have to correct me. The message that newborns are present, whole beings, persons that are longing to be with us and to learn life, to learn to live from the adult humans.
By living with them.
By living with them. Yes, 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 yes.
So I can hear now so much more hearing it back. You know, I hear it opens when you hear something back because we are interaction.
Yes, and that's why we're, maybe this is a transition here, why we're forming this focusing for community empowerment project and training that you're involved in. And maybe we can take a breath here and just see what
Yes.
that means to you to be part of this training. It's a big commitment to the reading and focusing and study for 10 months, right? And intensive being together in community on Zoom, which is a funny, strange way of being in community, and going through all of the process, of living together, understanding each other, listening to each other, learning um, to embrace difference or be open to difference, learning to listen. And the thing that I am saying lately is listening will save the world. Radical listening will save the world. So we're trying to experiment with that. And it's very interesting to me that you have been embedded in intense communities your whole life, and now here you're joining this community, and bringing all of that from the past, all of that learning, including Michael Lerner's approach here, to this project of how we incorporate focusing and into community life. So I just want to hear what it means to you.
Well, so timely because of the main media narrative always wanting to focus on division and difference.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like listening, which people, I don't think they hear that word as an active thing yet. They hear it as a passive.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's why Carl Rogers called it active listening, which is a lovely term actually that we don't use anymore.
It's very timely what you're doing.
I was curious about what you meant in the last group, because people had many different reactions to your saying, well, I'm one of them. And what was your experience of saying that? I know some people said, oh, that's so brave to say. And I remember that Avril was very touched and wept about how it was so important to have them in the group. And what was your experience of coming out as one of them? And who are the them?
I did it so as not to be dishonest. My experience was there was like a kumbaya kind of thing going on about the Biden election. And I can't share that. I know too much. I can't share it. And so, of course, I could have gone along with it because I would say most of my life, I do choose to go along with, um, you know, don't cause waves if you don't need to.
Yes.
Because I am to the left of left.
I
mean, I'm to the left of left. I'm what happened to me politically, and you'll be careful so I don't launch, but what happened to me politically is I'm very bereft post the Sanders campaign.
I see.
I even my more radical friends, and I have many, I was involved in Occupy, which I didn't mention, but I have all kinds of communities that think of me as a part of them.
Yes.
And they were like, don't be silly. Sanders? I mean, yeah, Sanders, he's great. but he's working within the machinery of the Democratic Party, and you know who they are. And I do. I know who they are, up close and personal. I know. And but I said, but he says there's no alternative but to hope. We have to hope. We have to unleash hope.
Uh-huh.
And I flew so far high in my hope that in my lifetime we could see some normal policies like and I just unleashed myself. It was and all my friends, all my politically savvy friends said, Ina, really? It would be great, but it isn't going to be allowed to happen.
I want to really get that moment there of you unleashed yourself.
I was with him, not that he knows me, but I was with him a few days before the heart attack because he presented in Williamsburg, and I volunteered. And I volunteered also at the Queensbridge at the huge rally, 26,000 people and 5,000 people in the street who couldn't get in. And I spent the day before the rally there. I gave myself away.
Yeah. You gave yourself to that. Okay, let's take a breath there. Oh, a big breath that you gave yourself. You were excited. You dared to hope.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
You didn't want to be dishonest or to go along with. And it felt like everybody was sort of excited or taking for granted that people would be happy about Biden. And you really wanted to say, no, I'm not. But we didn't even have a chance for you to say what that meant to you.
Right. No one really, no one has asked. What happened was, I think, because I know one woman became angry, and I guess people assumed, oh, how did this happen? I think we have a Trump supporter in our midst. How did this happen? Aren't we safe in here? And I want to clarify, but I want to remain scrupulously honest. If people had that impression, they're not all wrong. They're not all wrong. Because of my intimate knowledge of the Democratic Party machinery and so forth, all the superlative, how do you say negatives that are superlative? I don't remember, but all the,
you say superlative negatives.
Okay, all the attacks levied at Trump, and I'm sure he's a person I would not enjoy meeting or having anything to do with, but nevertheless, all the vilification, I found
good word.
All the vilification, the tremendous amount of vilification of everything about him that has been heaped on him. Even if he says something good, even if he says something right, it doesn't matter. It's just, so for me, I have complete distrust in the media narrative.
Okay, I want to say that.
This thing we already mentioned.
Yes, that to be scrupulously honest, that you didn't mean you're a Trump supporter, but to be scrupulously honest, there is a way in which you have complete distrust of the media reporting of the workings of the Democratic Party, and there is something that would be sympathetic with Trump and feel like not sympathetic, I went too far. There would be something that, how would you say it? Not
you know what happened during Sanders' campaign. I followed the media so closely, and I saw daily how they lie. I mean, so boldly.
Yes,
they omit they misinform, they misstate,
Yes.
I mean, it's very, a few errors could be errors, but no, this is crafting. So, and then,
Say that better.
okay,
It wasn't that the scrupulously honest is sympathetic to Trump, but it's that it protests the villainizing, and you wanted to register to the group that you aren't part of some kumbaya unity there, that would be a democratic mush, that you have very distinct individual um, uh, convictions, and the convictions have to do with protesting the narrative of the media, because there are millions of thems, and we all
right.
have them we're all them as well as us, but your particular them is what we want to get at.
My distrust of the media having been borne out so that it's now an active, confirmed skepticism.
Right.
I can't buy whatever they're saying. That extends, it's only now, I don't mean today, but in this period, that I understand fully that we each live in echo chambers of our own agreement, right? And
Yes.
I guess I thought that the liberal media was less dishonest than the conservative media. But now I know, and it has been proven to me, that that is not the case. That the liberal media, just like both political extremes, support locking out independent parties, independent voices, independent candidates. And I have a 9-year lived experience of that. It's not based on a book I half read.
Right.
Similarly, I now know that the media, right and left, are in collusion. Well, maybe collusion is too active, but they agree on a media narrative and sub-media narratives, and that's what you get.
Okay, so that defines it. Okay, yes, that's where you stand, and you had the courage to sort of flag up, I am standing somewhere, and nobody has really asked you yet
Yes.
what the them means. But of course, we're going to send them this recorded conversation. But it's striking to me that nobody asked you.
Yes, it is. It's
You're a small group.
It's aching and tragic. I love what you said, which is we're all of them, because that brings in the fact that of the intricacy.
Yes.
Right? So each of us is literally an inexpressible intricacy, because as we've all noticed, and Jean has helped us live and know this, that no one else sits or stands where I do, and no one has had the experiences I've had. So if each of us is a personal scientist, as it were,
Yes.
no one can report from this place.
Absolutely.
No one else. So yeah, and again, yes, if Sanders had been nominated, the room would have, I don't know what people would have felt, but so it would have been very different. But sometimes Trump says and does, I mean, I love that he's made peace with 3 countries in Israel. I'm sorry, I am in favor of that. Bahrain and UAE, they're doing trade with Israel. I mean, I'm against the nation states. I'm against capitalism. I'm against weaponry, which I know Israel sells to everyone. I'm against all this. But within the reality that we're in, that's a good thing.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, it's
So you want you want people to know that it's not like you're a Trump supporter the way people think a Trump supporter would be, um, rooting for Trump, but there are good things that he did that you feel are good, but that mostly you want to say that you are protesting a kind of homogeny that you felt in the group.
oh yes,
Granted
that's
something
good.
about your convictions and your beliefs. And you said in the group that you were saying it out of fear, but I think it was more than fear, that you're also us because you love Jean's work and you're a focuser. And I think maybe all of us are us, and we're all have the experience of them, and and you're helping to spell that out in a very interesting way here. And how did you feel about people, a couple of people being angry at you, or at least one person being angry at you?
I mean, that seemed okay. That seemed honest,
Okay.
because I think they assumed that I'm a Trump supporter. Wait, you know what? When I say Trump supporter, I'm not even talking about the
Yeah,
person Donald Trump. I'm
yeah.
already using like a stereotype. But to be completely honest here, I also don't accept that there is a main media narrative around the pandemic and
Yeah.
the lockdown. So very, I mean, we have friends all over the world who live in other countries, and I read a lot of media. I read some science too, although I'm learning to read science right now better. And I don't accept the main media narrative.
Yes, that's your main point, and you're yes, and
But I
you
wanted to extend it so that it's
yeah,
not just that I think that
absolutely.
the left or the liberal, that they expose themselves by always vilifying Trump,
Yes,
no
yes.
matter what he does, and always now deifying Biden, the new FDR. Really? Have you not read his record? But anyway, we won't go there. This is not about that. But it's just, yeah, the main media narrative. So do I think what's happening is correct
I think
to censor other narratives? No.
right,
That
right,
I'm against censoring alternative narratives.
right.
I
I
think it's
say
extremely dangerous.
that you're against censoring alternative narratives,
Yes.
and that's the message. I want to take a breath. We're going to sort of wind up
Yeah.
our conversation that's been very stimulating and amazing, and I want to really thank you.
And you.
Given it, you're all here with me, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me into the program. Thank you.
Okay, bye bye now.
Bye.
Bye.